everybody, it's Monday, October 25th, and that means it's time for another episode of Chatting with Agnes and Cecilia, Nonprofit Conversations. Agnes Amos Coleman is on an extended leave and will not be joining us today. But I'm here, one of your regular hosts. I'm Cecilia Supp. I'm the principal and founder of Rogue Tulips Nonprofit Consulting. And I'm here today with my friend and colleague, Moira Edwards, and we're going to talk about optimizing your technology ecosystem. Welcome to the show, Moira. Would you like to say hello and introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Thanks, Cecilia. Hello, everyone. Great to be here today. My name is Moira Edwards, and I'm the president of Ellipsis Partners, and we're technology consultants for nonprofits. And I think what that really means is that when people are overwhelmed with all of the choices facing them in technology, which is a big, big field, we help them just understand it and get all the information they need to make a good decision, like a smart decision. So that's what I like doing, and that's what I'm hoping to talk about today.
Oh, well, that's wonderful because we have a lot of global audience members. And so we would like to say good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you may be today watching this episode. I love your attitude, Moira, because I think a lot of times associations get overwhelmed by all the choices. There are so many choices out there in the environment for them to pick. And I sometimes see people having like a patchwork quilt approach to their technology. So what might be the first question you ask an association about their technology?
And I love this idea of a patchwork quilt, because what that tells me, if there's lots of bits and pieces, that the approach to technology has been a bit responsive rather than intentional. So that's what we would hope to support organizations doing, is being intentional. But again, if it's scary, if you don't think you know anything about technology and you see technology as this huge block, then it's hard for you to be intentional. Mm-hmm. So I think the very first question we would always ask is, what do your members value about your organization? Because that actually gets to the heart. Absolutely. That, to me, that's the heart of why an association, why a membership organization has technology, to serve members. And if we understand what those business needs are and what's special about your association, so that's like the Jim Collins principle of what are you the best at in the world? And as membership organizations, we are the best at serving the very specific people who are our members and solving their problems and meeting their interests. So to me, when we start to think about what technology you need in place, it's always focused on who are your members and how do you serve them. So that's the first question.
You don't even start talking about technology. You talk about, well, what do people like about your organization, which I think that's actually a pretty fresh approach, because I really liked your comment about people are responsive or maybe even reactive to something, or they think that shiny, bright thing will fix whatever it is they're trying to address. So when you're looking at an ecosystem for an association, or any other kind of nonprofit, really, when you say ecosystem, what does that mean for your company, and how does that extend out to a client?
Right. A technology ecosystem is all the components you have in place to run your organization, to serve your members, and to deliver programs and services, and make sure your staff can do what they need to do. And I think when you talk about that, shiny object, we absolutely see organizations falling for that all the time. We once had this little small organization, 10 people, and they saw this huge system, right? But it had the most amazing features and the most amazing reporting, right? But it was too much for them. And so we brought them back and said, that wasn't what you looked for. What you needed was something that could run your certification program, make things really easy. And they were like, oh yeah, you're right. So they went for something that was much smaller, that they could manage. So, what we were trying to do is kind of back people away from being dazzled. Ooh. And thinking about what's critical to you? Like if you're an organization and members come to you for your online learning, you know what's critical for you? Online learning. And so your learning management system should probably be best of breed. But if they come to you instead for certification, right? And maybe they get their learning somewhere else, but they get their certification from you, then you really need to think about what system will do certification. And maybe that becomes, in some ways, the core system in your ecosystem. Because big organizations have lots and lots and lots and lots of systems. Smaller organizations are going to have less. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to match the complexity of what you do with the complexity of technology that you need to support it. So that's when I think of ourselves sometimes as matchmakers. We're really trying to understand that complexity and match those together.
Well, and I really like the term ecosystem because that makes me think of ecology and the necessary balance in any natural system. And I think a lot of times associations and nonprofits overlook the fact you need to continue maintaining that balance. You can't just put a system in place and walk away from it and hope for the best, that you do have to continually monitor it and make sure it's doing what you need it to do. So what sort of questions or advice might you give an association who is in maybe an aging ecosystem that's out of balance? Like, what approach might you take with them for, getting that balance back?
Right. And actually I had a very interesting conversation about this last night with a colleague of mine and the idea of tech debt. So tech debt is the amount of money that you should have invested in your systems, but you haven't. And think of it, if you buy a house, and if you bought a house and 20 years later you sold it, and in that 20 years you had never put any money into the house, maybe you'd fixed the broken pipes, but you had never upgraded the kitchen, or you had never, put in better windows. In 20 years' time, that would not be a valuable house. It would have significantly degraded. So that always brings it home to me, that fact that every year you need to be putting something into your house. I think they say you should invest 10% of the house's value, every few years to really keep it going. Mm-hmm. Technology's like that too. In order to keep your systems modern, to keep them current, to meet the expectations of your members and your staff, you have to invest every year. And if you don't, you accumulate tech debt. So you can't escape investing in technology. It's not launch it and let it, rot on the vine. It has to be maintained, has to be improved.
Well, I really like that term tech debt because I really see that. I've seen that as a staff person. I'm highly aware of it with my own technology, having my own company and my own IT department. So I'm trained to have to keep up with these things too. And this year I had to upgrade my own technology ecosystem. I saved up money and bought a new computer, and I got a new monitor. I have a fancy microphone that's here off screen that you can't see for the podcast now. So I am a person who thinks about that. I invest money in my technology. So you say it has to be annually. So when you're doing that, like annually, what are some checklist kind of things people might need to look at? Are we looking at the hardware? Are we looking at the software? What is our approach annually?
I like to think of technology in 3 layers, 3 levels. Mm-hmm. And the basic level is technology is operations. Does everything work? Is it secure? Do you have internet connection? Can people send an email, open a document, do that fundamental work? So you need that in place. And luckily you can outsource that. You've got an internet provider. Maybe, if we're a small organization, we have, we'll go to Best Buy with our computer if it breaks. We don't have to do that much. We don't have server rooms in the closet anymore, right? So you outsource that technology's operations. But the next level is technology as service. How are we serving members? And that's probably got your association management system in it, your learning management system, your online community, your email marketing. And that's about, are people being served well? Can they easily come and register for an event? Are your staff, transferring data from system to system by doing Excel exports and just pulling their hair out, or is that flowing much better? So that's technology as service is a big chunk. You're outsourcing the operations, and that's whatever your managed services provider charges you every month. Technology as service is about, running the business well. And then up there at the top is technology as innovation, as member value. What can you offer that actually is of unique value to your members? And maybe it's a webinar series. It doesn't necessarily have to be all this innovative technology. It could be done on Zoom, but if you're bringing together in these webinars the leaders in the field with your regular members so that they can capitalize on that expertise, then that's innovation, because nobody else can offer that, because you have access to these people. But you also could be experimenting with different ways of using technology, different tools out there. So I think, you want to keep some money in reserve every year to experiment with technology and try new ways of serving people. But the bulk of it is going to fall in, let's make our regular services easy to use, current, streamlined. So, because when people talk about digital transformation, what it is about removing friction. I love that definition of it. Like, you remove barriers using technology. So that's what you want to be doing every year, is just kind of removing barriers from your staff and your members and doing what they want to do and need to do.
That is a really great approach. I love that. And that is a really good definition of digital transformation. Remove barriers, remove friction, because while tension holds things together, I think we all know friction tends to make things wear down or maybe catch on fire, right?
Right.
So
it's the opposite of delight. We want to delight our members, and friction just kind of, frustrates them.
Oh, yeah. And irritates, right? It's like, I think we've all had that kind of a thing. So we have a few minutes left. I wanted to talk with you a little bit and hear your thoughts on data. You talked about exporting data into Excel and then maybe taking it from an Excel. So you take it from the database to Excel to another system within your system, and that drives you crazy. Some people that I've been talking with have been saying, maybe the AMS is dead, that integrated association management system just isn't serving us anymore. And we need to go to data servers, basically, for lack of a better term, that integrate. Is that the trend you're seeing? And if so, do you think that's a good trend?
I think you're absolutely right that integration is the key thing. That what you want are the best of breed tools for different things, and then have them exchange data. So we're seeing a lot of focus on middleware that sit in the middle, or a data lake, which sounds much nicer than the data warehouse. A data lake,
I agree.
was swimming in it, but a data lake in the middle that has all of that data for understanding and making good business decisions. But I will say that there is always a role for a best of breed tool that does what you need it to do. And if you're a membership organization, you're going to need something that runs membership for you and that thinks about, complex dues structures, membership structures, dues renewal. So there's a room for that is the first point. And the second point is, it depends how big you are. If you are a 100 staff association and you have a chief information officer and an IT team, you could be thinking about, deconstructing the AMS into best of breed tools and finding a way to link them. But if you're a 4 staff association or 10, and you don't have even an IT director, let alone a chief information officer, well, then you need your technology to do the work of a staff member. It really needs to be an absolute powerhouse. So in that case, an AMS that does membership really well and committees really well, and maybe does other things as well as you need them to be done. Authentication, event registration, whatever it is, if they can do those well enough, I think that's an excellent investment. That's the intentionality. That's the optimization because it fits your organization, your budget, your capacity to maintain it. Because if you buy the best of breed and you don't have the resources to maintain it, whether they're people or money, you're going to stumble. And that's not going to be a good investment.
Well, and I agree with you. Now, I've not served in your role really as a technology consultant, but being a person who uses technology a lot, who's had to choose technology for associations and for myself, of course, I agree with you. I don't know if that the AMS is necessarily on the way out, especially for a smaller staff group. I think there is a lot of benefit to having a completely integrated system that is built to talk to each other, because I see a lot of people struggle with trying to integrate something into what they're using, and it's not really built for that. One of the things that somebody's been talking to me about lately is I'm on the local chapter board of the Institute of Management Consultants, and we are using Eventbrite, despite the fact that the national organization has migrated to an integrated AMS. The chapters don't have access to the integrated AMS, but we've also learned Eventbrite doesn't talk to this new AMS. So we're having friction as opposed to a delightful experience swimming in the data lake, as we so nicely said. So that's just something. I think we all have these experiences, but I also, to your points you've made throughout this discussion, people need to think through what is it you're trying to do, and how does that point you just made about, is your system acting as a staff member? I've never thought of it that way before. I've always thought of technology as a tool I use. I've never thought of it as maybe being, like our Mr. Data from Star Trek: The Next Generation. It's a part of the team that can do a lot of things for us. So this has been a really great conversation, and I want to thank you again for joining us, Moira. We like to ask our guests at the end of the episode, what's the one thought you would like people to take away, and how can they get in touch with you if they want to continue this conversation?
Thank you, Cecilia. I think when it comes down to it, that technology is about the people. I was just listening to a talk where a very senior marketing person said it's the people aspect that is the magic in any decision to purchase. And so but I think that's true when we are thinking about something as kind of as boring as an AMS or an LMS. It's about the people who use it, your members. It's about the people who have to support it and serve it to your members, your staff. But it's also about the people who develop it and who support it in the vendor company. And to a certain extent, it's also about the people who are trying to hack it. So I think when we get overwhelmed and we're trying to figure out how to make technology decisions, if you can put yourself in those different shoes and you understand all the different people's perspectives, and then you get that translated, so you get all this technology speech translated into English for you by these people, that you can be more intentional about your technology ecosystem, that you can make good decisions because you have the information you need in English. So please, would love to hear from anyone who had more thoughts on this topic, because it's something that is a great passion of mine. You can reach me through our website, www.ellipsispartners.com. Ellipsis is spelled ELLIPSIS, one of those great words, I'll have to tell you, Cecilia. Nobody's quite sure how many L's in Ellipsis Partners. And also reach me through LinkedIn. Love to hear from you and connect with you. Thank you.
Well, that's great. Well, thank you again, Moira. This has been a wonderful conversation. I look forward to inviting you back for another conversation on technology. But we have to go rogue for now. We'll be back next time with another exciting episode of Chatting with Agnes and Cecilia Nonprofit Conversations. But in the meantime, if you'd like to learn more about Rogue Tulips Nonprofit Consulting and how we can help your organization, check out our website, roguetulips.com. And I encourage you to check out our sister company, the 501c League, where we offer a variety of support services for those who already have the CAE designation or who are working towards it. You can learn more about the League at 501cleague.net. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.